Talk about in-flight shenanigans. In a video shot by a fellow passenger on American Airlines, it appears that passenger Jason Felix is screaming at a flight attendant for not being served alcohol. An FBI affidavit stated that around an hour after the flight took off from St. Croix to Miami, Felix called on the flight attendant to purchase another beer. The Independent reports the flight attendant refused after he caught Felix scouring through the back of the plane, opening and closing cabinets in the bathroom earlier during the flight. When a flight attendant confronted him, he seemed upset and was swearing at the flight attendant on his way back to his seat. The FBI says when his request for another drink was turned down, Felix started chasing the flight attendants and using inappropriate language. The crew informed Felix that he would need to sit down and told him he would not be drinking any more beers. Bill Bolduc, who recorded the incident, claims Felix then started hitting his seatmate in the aisle, spitting blood and tearing his shirt, while the other passengers tried to pull them apart. It turns out the seatmate Felix was fighting with was a U.S. Virgin Islands police officer. The FBI says Felix threatened to kill him and even said, "I know you're a cop." When the plane landed in Miami, 4 police officers came onto the plane and escorted Felix into the airport, where he was immediately arrested for attempting to interfere with the flight crew. His detention hearing is set for Tuesday in Florida, and he could be sentenced up to 20 years in jail. Flying. Woman is almost sucked out of a plane window after engine explosion. A mid-flight engine explosion at 32,000 feet on Tuesday led to chaos over the skies of Philadelphia. According to the New York Times, Southwest Airlines Flight 1380 was en route to Dallas from New York when one of its 2 engines exploded mid-flight. The Boeing 737 aircraft was reportedly carrying 143 passengers and 5 crew at the time. It later emergency landed in Philadelphia. Shrapnel from the explosion shattered a plane window. The Chicago Tribune reports the sudden decompression in the cabin caused passenger Jennifer Reardon to be partially pulled through the window. Here's the window Reardon almost went through, and the wrecked engine after the plane landed. A passenger later told the New York Times Reardon was also hit by some shrapnel from the damaged plane engine. He explained passengers and crew dragged her back in, but she was unconscious when they did. Reardon later died despite attempts to revive her. According to the Dallas News, Reardon was 43 years old and Vice President of Community Relations at Wells Fargo. The Albuquerque woman was returning from a New York business trip. Meanwhile, fearing he'd never see his loved ones again, passenger Marty Martinez partially live-streamed events from inside the aircraft to Facebook. He also posted several videos and images from inside the plane. Southwest Airlines Chief Executive Gary Kelly sent the airline's condolences to Reardon's family and praised the actions of crew and responders in Philadelphia.
And on behalf of the entire Southwest family, I want to extend my deepest sympathies for the family and the loved ones of our deceased customer.
According to NBC Philadelphia, the National Transportation and Safety Board are investigating the incident as engine failure. That engine, reportedly a CFM56 turbofan, is a common component in many modern aircraft. Chinese co-pilot almost sucked out mid-flight. A Chinese passenger jet was forced to make an unexpected pit stop after it had some minor window issues. Sichuan Airlines Flight 3U8633 was flying from Chongqing to Lhasa, carrying 119 passengers. Captain Liu Zhuangjian told the Chengdu Economic Daily the aircraft was cruising mid-flight when the windshield suddenly cracked and made a loud bang. The co-pilot was sucked halfway out the cockpit window, but he was wearing his seatbelt. He was dragged back into the cockpit. The plane was then forced to make an emergency landing. None of the passengers were harmed. The co-pilot suffered scratches and a sprained wrist. An investigation has begun into the incident. Well, this is unique. Ever thought of air travel in terms of reusable shipping containers? If what a bunch of researchers are doing in Switzerland is anything to go by, that concept might just fly. Developed at the Federal Polytechnic Institute, the pod planes concept could one day allow passengers to board at rail stations. These pods each measure 30 meters in length. After being ferried to the airport, the pod would join others under a giant 60-meter wing. This modular concept aircraft is one of several developed by Swiss researchers called Clip Air. According to CNN, its speed and range would be around the same as most mid-sized commercial aircraft.
Passengers thrown around like rag dolls after Aeroflot flight hit severe turbulence. At least 27 people, including babies, were hurt after an Aeroflot flight hit severe turbulence on Monday morning. Aeroflot flight SU-270 was traveling from Moscow to Bangkok and was about 40 minutes from its destination when it hit clear air turbulence. This type of turbulence occurs during clear cloudless skies and cannot be detected by radar. Under these conditions, airplanes experience severe turbulence when they move through the space between fast and slow jet streams. 3 passengers on the Aeroflot flight reportedly required surgeries to treat leg fractures and broken ribs. Some passengers said they saw babies with bruises after the incident. The company has said they will cover the medical costs of those who were injured.
Apple costs woman $500 after she doesn't declare it. A Colorado woman is mad after she was fined $500 for bringing an apple into the U.S. According to Fox News, Crystal Tadlock was returning from France to the U.S. of A. when the crew on her Delta flight handed out apples. Tadlock kept hers for later, and as we're about to find out, Tomo Sapiens, this was a costly decision. Tadlock's carry-on luggage was selected for search at the airport, and no points for guessing which of your 5 a day the customs agent took issue with. But she got the apple from the airline, so that shouldn't be an issue, right? Wrong. U.S. Customs and Borders rules stipulate all agricultural items must be declared. And that freebie wound up costing her 500 smackers and fines. But it could have been much more. One look at the general food section of the U.S. Customs and Borders website and you'll see why. It says, failure to declare food products can result in up to $10,000 in fines and penalties. When in doubt, keep it out. Yikes. Tadlock explained to Fox News the incident may void her global entry status. That's part of a program that lets low-risk U.S. citizens board planes quicker. Fox 31 Denver reports she's also planning on fighting the fine in the courts. Someone made the wrong call. The family of a woman who died after a mid-flight medical emergency on American Airlines is now suing the carrier for negligence. According to federal court documents, the incident occurred while newlyweds Brittany and Corey Oswell were flying from Honolulu to Dallas-Fort Worth in April of 2016. 3 hours into the flight, Brittany became dizzy and disoriented, slurring her speech before suddenly fainting. A doctor on the plane who checked on her initially thought she was having a panic attack. About 1 to 3 hours later, the 25-year-old went into the laboratory and was discovered lying on the floor after vomiting and soiling herself. After examining her again, the doctor told the flight crew several times to land the plane at the nearest airport so Brittany could get medical help. The plane could have diverted to Albuquerque, New Mexico, but instead it continued on for another 90 minutes to Dallas. During this time, Brittany's breathing and pulse stopped. The doctor tried to use a defibrillator, but it turned out to be faulty. She never regained consciousness and spent 3 days on full life support at Baylor Medical Center before being taken off and declared dead on April 18th. Doctors determined she had a blood clot in her lung and stated the cause of death as acute massive pulmonary embolism and cardiogenic shock. Her family is seeking damages for their loss, believing the airline is at fault for not diverting the plane and for the faulty medical equipment on board.